Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Joining me, the revolutionary moose in Great
Moose.
Britain. It's amazing. The internet just does
The
so
moose
much for us.
guru.
Yeah, I got more headroom today.
Max headroom.
Exactly. But I won't stutter.
Those were the days.
Yeah, Rick's all over. Poor Carlos.
Oh no, is he the cancer on the team then?
He's not the cancer. He's just old.
Yeah, like
I
I'm
want to. I can't stand this thing not being at least somewhat centered. For God's sakes. All right. Yeah. So it goes. The Guardians will go as far as their pitching will take them, and right now they've hit a lull. We'll see what happens.
They haven't hit Joe Lull, have they?
No. And Joe Lull hasn't hit anything in his car.
Wow.
So he has that going for him.
Correct.
All right. So here we sit, and just a few things to talk about. It's not like there's a hell of a lot to talk about, but I want to do something positive because the last show was me bitching about things that pissed me off.
It was a lot of moaning. A lot of mooing. A lot of mooing going on.
Yeah, and well, there should sometimes, but in this instance, I wanted to point something out because the Guardians have lost 2 in a row. They lost to Toronto twice in a row, and it coincided with when Jose Ramirez had paternity time off. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they have guys who can get on base, but they don't really have the guys who can consistently drive them in. So they're kind of like a bunch of worker ants,
Right, but they don't have a queen.
That's right. There is nobody who really can hit the big, the well-timed double or home run that will drive in crooked numbers. And so they're forced to kind of squeeze out what they can squeeze out. And so it's going to be hard. And if, God forbid, Nick Sandlin came in and pitched 0 innings and gave up 3 runs, if your bullpen fails you, then you're just totally fucked because you never really have a big lead because you don't drive in really that many runs. You're not the kind of team that's going to, have that comeback capability. They almost did in the last game, but they came up, a Jimenez short of getting that game evened out in the 9th inning. But something I wanted to talk about is through all the talk of, Jose Ramirez has gotten a boatload of votes in the early going for the All-Star game, and well, he should. He's a great ball player. He plays a good third base, and he was happy to be in Cleveland. And
I know,
and
it's amazing,
and his performance shows that. And he has stepped up to kind of lower his batting average, but to increase his power and run generation. And so, he's done his part to give a big bat with, 100 RBI capabilities into their lineup.
Yeah.
And, Amsterdam, who will, hi, Christopher. I hope everything is okay for you, buddy. The tribe, some people just never give up the ghost. It's not enough that they're in first place. Got to find something to bitch about. The 4 dead spots in the lineup, Amsterdam just fucking hates on certain players like Brian Rocchio, who hit a 2-run home run in the 9th inning. And, it's really funny. I get little messages from him through my Facebook account, and he's just going on about how, Rocchio is shit. And then he ends up hitting a 2-run home run in the 9th and gets us within 1. And it's like, well, that didn't age very well. Now, did it? And nobody thinks that Brian Rocchio is the long-term answer to anything, except that it's better than Arias is, who can't even make contact with the baseball. But really big problems with Bo Naylor because he's just not making contact at all. He looks like he is mentally defeated at home plate, overmatched, and in a bad place.
He's not going to start crawling to first base like Tony Horton is.
Yeah, but
no.
and it's not like he's not like the best defensive catcher on the team either. He's made some mistakes in that regard, but with a bat in his hands, he's not dangerous at all. So I understand what Amsterdam is saying. His brother Naylor got off to a great start, and he hasn't hit since. And you see the batting averages starting to drop down, the power numbers starting to drop down a little bit. And Jimenez can hit, but is still prone, as you saw in that final at bat, up 2-0 in the count, and ball 3's on its way, and he swings at a ball that's literally half a foot off the plate. Wow. And the very, very next pitch, he swung at one that was high in the strike zone and just popped it up to center. Not disciplined. And Jimenez has been really good with men on base, but he's not a disciplined hitter. Right now, Schneemann is doing a nice job in the interim time, and Brennan has at least caught a little fire, but he's been confused as hell at home plate. So
that's a great name, Schneemann, isn't it? That's quality.
No, Amsterdam, no. The double play machine is David Fry. David Fry runs like he has shit in his pants, like Ron Hassey used to run.
Ron Hassey, wow.
Yeah, I'm pulling that out of my assy. Now, and it's not. And David Fry's had a real nice year, but his batting average is starting to plunge. And there was nothing to suggest in his minor league performances that he was a great hitter, but he is slow as can be. And I don't have stats in front of me, but if you look at the last 10 games, he's hit into a ton of double plays because he's just pounding the ball into the ground. He's not elevating the ball. So at any rate, and Freeman is not a great hitter. We found ourselves a nice center fielder. We had a nice defensive center fielder who couldn't hit. Now we have another one. Congratulations. But the thing that doesn't get talked about, because the only thing positive is Jose Ramirez, is Stephen Kwan. Lost in all of the shuffle is a guy who, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 skill hitters in the American League. And this is not because he's got a 398 average this year. Last year was an off year for him, and he hit 264. He's a career 300 hitter. At every level that he played in the minor leagues, he hit 300 or better. And he's not a power guy. And it's because of that, there's no romance to this guy in today's game of baseball. But Stephen Kwan is Ichiro.
Yeah, he is, but he's not Japanese, is he?
No, and he doesn't have quite as much pop power-wise as Ichiro did. But he does the same stuff that Ichiro did. Like, he'll just hit a ball and reach and just dribble it between the third baseman and the shortstop and leg it out for a hit. Man gets a ton of infield singles. He goes with the pitch. And I think, people are saying, well, he's lucky to be hitting 398. He's not going to hit 398 for a season, obviously. But he ain't lucky. Major League Baseball changed the shift rule. And that affects a lot of players in different ways. And with Stephen Kwan, whatever his tendencies are, nobody has really figured it out, because he gets down and the count 2 strikes, he fouls balls off constantly. You make good pitches to him, he fouls the ball off. you go away, he slaps it in the left field for a single. You go in, he'll hook it down the line and hit a double, or he'll hit a ground ball up the middle if it's over the middle of the plate, or pull it into right field between the hole of first and second with the man on first. He is a one base at a time guy. He's only stolen 3 bases so far this season, but he runs extremely well, and he sets the table. His job is not to drive in runs. His job is to lead off and to get on base, and that he does. But again, everybody wants the world to be Aaron Judge, or to be even Jose Ramirez, get all the press because you've hit 18, 19, 20 home runs already. And it's like, oh, wow, that's what we need. We need the big bopper. But Kwan is a guy who makes sure that he sets the table and he gets on base. And he's a very valuable player because he also plays a very outstanding left field. He is a hard worker. He has meticulously built his ability to hit major league pitching, and he dives after balls. He plays hard all the time. He has stolen home this year, has taken extra bases, rounding third. He has done, when somebody falls asleep, he came across home plate when a pitcher fell asleep and forgot to cover home on a play.
Wow.
I mean, he's been nothing short of great for this team. And he'll never be in an all-star game. He'll never get the publicity. He's not playing in New York City, and he's not an Asian playing in Seattle. This is a guy who all he does is he has a great eye. He gets bases on balls. He gets on base. He gets hits, and he has speed, and he plays hard defense. And he runs everything out as hard as he can. He's exactly a coach's dream. And, and it's a shame that players like this don't get the credit. His stats, it's really remarkable. In the minor leagues, he's a 300 hitter with 837 at bats. I mean, so it's not like he's 26 years old now. It's not like he hasn't had minor league experience, and he paid his dues. And in the major leagues, his career is a 297 hitter, and with almost 1,400 at bats. And it ain't luck, folks. And last year at 264, I kind of look at last year and wonder how tired Francona was.
Yeah.
And how maybe the players tuned him out because
just didn't care.
Yeah. Because I really think that that Kwan is benefiting from Stephen Vogt and just an infusion of energy within a clubhouse of players, many of whom are getting what may be their one and only chance to play in the big leagues. So I think that there's something to say about that as well. But it just always bothers me that a guy who's 300 hitter in the minors and a 297 hitter in the bigs, coming off his worst year with a 264 average, and he's come back with a vengeance. You know what he was working on in the off season. So, I
got an interesting Rick Mail like this. You were talking about grounding into double plays. Well, no one ever talks about who leads the all-time stats for grounding into a double play.
Well, it's got to be people who were in positions with men on base,
Yeah, it's after 1933, so it's no really old-timers there. But yeah, anybody want to guess who any of the top 5 are?
The top 5 who
any of the top 5. If you get any of the top 5, kudos to you.
God almighty.
But you're right. I will give you a hint. It is RBI guys.
Oh, it always is because they're men on base. And No, Amsterdam. That would be incorrect and misspelled.
Bhupal, no.
Because he never was in that position. The Orioles won with Pancake Palmer and Mike Cuellar during that time. It wasn't with scoring big runs. I would have to say, let's say, go to the Yankees, who were a historical organization who had great players. And let's say, for the sake of argument, the slowest of the Yankees was now that's not a bad guess in guessing Miguel Cabrera because he'd have been
ding, 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 ding. He's number 2. He is number 2.
Because he couldn't run to save his soul.
Ding, 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 ding. Number 2. Well done.
Yeah, if his house was on fire, he couldn't get out of it. He was so slow.
364 in 11,796 plate appearances. So, yeah.
So give us the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so I can get on to my next subject.
Yeah, Pujols, Albert Pujols, number 1. Cabrera, 2.
El Hombre. Okay, good.
Cal Ripken Jr., number 3.
Wow, now that is interesting.
Yeah, and he's just behind Cabrera. Cabrera must have only just passed him in the past year. Ivan Rodriguez, IROD, and Mr. Hank Aaron. So there you go.
How about that?
That's a weird stat, isn't it?
Yeah, and right now it's David Fry. So
yeah, David Fry.
Yeah, but
Ron Hassey.
Oh, Ron Hassey never played with a team good enough to have men on base. Thank God. Shifting, I just wanted to say something positive about the Guardians and say something positive about the players. I mean, and Jimenez is a great fielder, and he's doing what he's supposed to do, is hanging around 265, 275 batting average and getting 2 out hits to bring in runs. He's gonna be he's like kind of a flashy guy who's got a little cockiness like Vizquel had. He's that kind of guy. With the news of the AFC North being the only division where all of the teams had a winning record last year.
They were. We was.
Yep. On the heels of that, yes, Hard Knocks TV series is at it again.
What are they doing now?
Well, they're going to do, for the first time, an in-season Hard Knocks TV series that will focus on strictly the AFC North. Get this.
Really?
Yep. Hard Knocks in season with the AFC North will debut December the 3rd and run through the rest of the regular season and playoffs. And the reason is, if the Browns don't do anything, they'll be able to shit on them. And you'll be able to see everything falling apart there on your TV screen.
Right there.
Yeah, I swear to God. But with the curiosity being, can Lamar Jackson win a Super Bowl? Which is the same question they keep asking every year. And the answer is no.
Can Joe Burrow win a Super Bowl?
No. He's had what, 2 chances? I don't, anyone could. You put out somebody on the field in a Super Bowl and it's flip a coin. You could have a great day. So you have Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson. And basically, this is how they're hyping this show. Jackson is coming off a second MVP win, but came up short of a first Super Bowl trip. Burrow played in just 10 games last season before undergoing wrist surgery. Watson is entering a make or break third season in Cleveland. That's right. Make or break. That's right. So all the people who got the festivities in Akron for Juneteenth celebration canceled by threatening the Black community in Akron, Ohio. And yes, that did happen. You will not find any place that has having a Juneteenth celebration because there were threats, physical threats made. All right.
Wow.
So what you're going to get is it's a make or break season for Deshaun Watson because, well, we know why. And then you have Russell Wilson, who's hoping to restart his career,
the enigma,
with Justin Fields in his shadow. So you see,
oh God.
So
honestly, I'd rather have what we have than Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Yeah, and look,
my God.
Yeah, and Wilson is 35 years old. All right.
Oh God, he was like 75 too.
And I wanted to look this up. Let's see. There was I'm looking up a specific quote. He had a quote, and it basically said that since he's come to Pittsburgh, he's revitalized.
He's been rejuvenated.
Yes. And I don't know.
How can you go to Pittsburgh and become rejuvenated? I don't get that. How does that work?
I don't think, it's meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is saying, is Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields a repeat of Kenny Pickett
and Mitch Trubisky?
That's correct. So they're on it.
They know oh wow.
And here's a story from 3 hours ago. Justin Fields may be failing to impress with the Steelers.
I tell you what, we're lucky to have Tyler Huntley. Yeah, done that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, again, this whole nonsense about the HBO Hard Knocks thing.
Has it not run its course yet? I mean, are people just now bored with that sort of form? It was, I mean, the building the Browns thing was fun about 2-3 years ago. Right. Now even that's starting to get old. I mean, and I enjoyed watching those programs, but I don't know whether I'd waste the time watching them now.
But they're going to do this in a positive light for the Steelers, like they always do. It's like, and Wilson's hoping to restart his career, but with Justin Fields in the shadows. And, but it's make or break for Deshaun Watson.
It's probably more make or break for Fields and Watson, or the other one. Yeah,
they brought Tomlin back again, and that's who it should be, make or break for. But because they kept Roethlisberger for way too long. Yeah. And now they're going to put a 35-year-old guy out, which tells you everything you need to know about Justin Fields at this point. If you can't beat out a 35-year-old quarterback, the fact is they don't feel you're ready to be an NFL quarterback.
No, and he's Colt McCoy. I mean, Justin Fields.
I don't know what he is, but there's obviously an opinion on this, and this is what's happened. I'm not a dad, Keith, but I'll put your message out to all the fathers out there. Yep. Yeah. And happy Father's Day, indeed. It's like DTR.
Yeah.
DTR, you could be a Browns fan, but you could see he was too small.
Yeah, I mean,
too indecisive.
No.
And we all wanted him to be something special,
but he wasn't.
The odds are, where he was
had
drafted.
One decent half in a preseason game. He looked good in one half of a preseason game, and that was it.
And that was it.
That was it.
Totally and he did end up getting hurt. And this year, again, everything that a team feels about somebody, it plays out. And it wasn't like nobody was thinking that DTR it was playing for a first or second string position because they brought Jameis Winston in faster than, than he could shake a stick. It's and you know something, David, I don't know, that might be the case. I don't, DTR looked like he was under strength arm wise, and Huntley is as well. And Huntley is a guy who I think he's weak armed and he's one dimensional. He's just going to get rid of the ball quickly, and he's another example of a game manager who can't strike a big play.
He's a younger Tyrod Taylor. Now, I probably like Huntley more than you do, but he's Tyrod Taylor-esque.
The more that I saw Huntley, I saw that he just reminded me of DTR. He had more experience on the field, but his arm isn't strong enough to really consistently make somebody afraid. Now, Keith is coming in and saying, I think going to an organization like Pittsburgh and how they operate, and I wonder, and in comparison, I get what you're saying. Denver and Chicago hasn't exactly been the place to be, but I got to be honest with you. Neither is Pittsburgh what it used to be. And I think that they get a lot of credit because of history. But if you take a look at, they played Roethlisberger into the ground and he had nothing left. And they drafted Pickett, and they had and Trubisky, and they were and this was supposed to work out in some way, and they couldn't make anything simple for those guys.
Well, I don't know what has happened to Pittsburgh in the past few years because, frankly, I don't follow them or want to follow them. But I noticed a decline in the quality of their drafting and their free agent signings over the past 5-6 years, and that's why they are where they are. They're not getting anybody new into that team
and wide receivers. And they drafted a guy in
Claypool and all those.
Claypool's a head case, and Pickett, who's a head case. Yeah. And again, you miss, and we know this is Browns fans.
You miss on draft picks. Now Pittsburgh's missing on the draft picks. They didn't used to do that,
right? And you fall behind, and that's what happens. Keith's come back and saying DTR managed to beat Pittsburgh, which is eternally to his credit. I don't think
he knew much about it, really.
It's true. Cleveland doesn't develop quarterbacks, and of course, if you're looking for the greatest horror story you can think of, it's the Browns organization and quarterbacks. But the thing that's funny about the Steelers is the credit that they get, like they're this vaunted giant, and that's what the NFL wants because they're going to promote them as such so that the Rooney family will get what they want. But the truth is they had Terry Bradshaw. All right. Yeah, but when Terry was done, they had to put up for years with Mark Malone and Bubby Brister. Yeah. And you start
Antoine Randall or whatever his name was.
Randall was another one. And then the guy who was Cordell Stewart. Yeah. And it's like they've missed on a lot of quarterbacks. Now, everything they get remembered for is Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger. And that's what they're known for. And David, who hates the Steelers, says they've been running the same offense since the 70s. And there is some truth to the fact that they have borrowed from the past. But to tell you, I don't know that Mike Tomlin is a contemporary NFL coach and he's running out of time.
Again, they don't get the running backs. You don't have Franco fucking Harris or Rocky Bly or the Bus or people like that to run these. They're just not getting the players like they used to.
And that's what I'm saying, Keith. Everybody saw, he played one season too many. He didn't play the right amount of time. All you had to do was take a look at the first snap against the Browns of the playoffs.
Yeah.
God almighty. He didn't even dive for the football, dude.
Yeah.
The ball's on his own end zone. And all he had to do was fall on it, and he just stood there and watched the Browns fall on the ball. I mean, they developed this got to throw the ball in 2.5 seconds or less, which was just fucking insanity. It was like, well, we've got him down to 2.4 seconds. It's like, yeah, but he's not even going down the field anymore. The thing that was great about Roethlisberger and Bradshaw is they had cannons for arms.
Oh, God,
and they could hurt you deep.
But
you had to have Lynn Swann, you had to have Stallworth, and you had to have Hines Ward. You had to have the right cast of players to pull that off.
Oh, even that Ohio State guy they had at receiver. I mean, they don't have these guys anymore. They don't have Hines Ward. They're not that good.
And again, Pittsburgh manages to do enough not to lose. Well, I would agree that they rely on defense and they rely on injuring their opponents, and that's what they do. And I'd be the first to acknowledge that they get away with more penalties than any team in the league, and I'll go for that. And it's almost like the league is trying everything they know how to do not to make this a loser. But when you play, Roethlisberger taped up like a goddamn mummy, and he can't even go to the ground to recover a fumble in his own end zone in the playoffs. You played him way too long. And then on top of it, you're right. They didn't have a successor in waiting, and they knew he was getting older, and they didn't do a goddamn thing about it.
They didn't do anything about it.
Now, I don't think anybody would agree that Joe Gilliam was a better quarterback than Bradshaw. But hey, it's your dream, and I never wake people up from their own dreams. And and in that game, that was a kooky game. I'd be the first to admit, but they were never really in the game. Pittsburgh was never really in the game, and the Browns were gifted so many things in that game that they couldn't.
And the
Steelers couldn't survive.
Prevent defense, that prevented us from winning most of the time. But anyway,
well, it's interesting. Joe Gilliam did have a drug problem. And at the time, I can talk about racism today. Back then, it's not like it was really any better. As far as going back to what you were saying, for Justin Fields, it is a bad situation in Chicago. Chicago hasn't been able to have a single quarterback to do anything for them. But I got to say this. When we played Justin Fields in his rookie season, deer in the headlights.
Oh, that was crazy. That was like DeShone Kizer-esque.
I mean, he was like throwing it up in the air, just Or I'll do my other noise. Just throwing it up in the air. Yeah. I mean, he'd go back to pass and he'd be trying to hit the ground because his offensive line sucked, but so did he, and he never got any better. And so far, his start in Pittsburgh is that he's not impressing people. And that's according to the Pittsburgh press, not me trying to start trouble with the Steelers, which I do frequently.
He's just not that good. He's not Stroud. He's not CJ Stroud.
So I guess
this is what it is.
And it's going to be the Steelers' first appearance on the show because as far as the HBO, Hard Knocks, because they've had no Hard Knocks. They should have called it, HBO Free Ride when the Steelers were on it. Let's bring David Talevsky in. Hey, David, are you with us?
Oh, God, somebody else.
I'm here, Lou.
Good. Yeah, I know you have something to say.
Yeah. I just wanted to weigh in on your Steelers talk. I mean, quite frankly, I study a lot more of the other teams in the division than most people, and the main problem with them is they've been running the same offense since the 1970s.
Get off the phone, David. How many times do I have to tell you?
No.
No. That was my brother talking about something else down there.
I know. I'm just fucking with you, dude.
Yeah, I know. I got you. Yeah, but they've been running the same offense since the 1970s.
Well, I mean, there is a run first mentality that they haven't been able to substantiate because their offensive line is not what it used to be. And let's be honest, the running backs that they have chosen to be their lead runners have not been the kinds of guys who they were more like the kinds of guys that the Browns would put their money on.
Yes,
Trent
describe
Richardson-esque, yeah.
What would Jim fucking Brown call them? You know,
Far below mediocre. They're
Well, here's the thing. Jalen Warren, I've seen, in my opinion, is a better back than Najee Harris. He's more explosive.
yeah,
He
well,
looks better in head
Jalen
stuff.
Warren, yeah, he hits a hole. Najee Harris is standing around looking and waiting, and he and oh God, now I'm gonna
Trent
have to.
Richardson.
Yeah, the guy we Ford, our running back, who
Jerome
turned
Ford.
out to be one of our primary running backs, dancing around. You got to be decisive. The one thing, and people don't understand when they know how good Nick Chubb has been, but there's two things that make him what he is. The first thing is he knows how the play is designed.
Yep.
And he has the people up front winning their battles. And so he gets that first momentum through the line. But what he does is he can look 2-3 moves ahead, and he's just death in the open field for other teams. Ford, on the other hand, is a guy who he kind of reminded me of. He had a little Trent Richardson in him. He you see a hole and you don't quite believe it. And if you don't act on it right away, then everything just, it is such a small window. If you have a good enough offensive line, and let's be honest, the Browns' offensive line would be good if their players weren't all busted up all the time. But that's going to be the case because it appears that, they're just going to stick with the same players and the same thing will happen.
Yeah, I mean, we've had James Hudson III for about 8 years, filling up all the holes on the line. So,
and
he can't block worth a shit.
Yeah, I mean, and Keith wants to compare C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields.
I was just saying he's a better player. I wasn't saying that they were the same type of player.
You can't compare any quarterback with any quarterback. They all do different things.
There's a real difference between the two. First of all, C.J. Stroud carries himself with a lot more confidence than Justin Fields. Second of all, he makes decisions quickly. And what we saw of him last season, there is no fluke when a quarterback proves that he goes to the right part of the field. He looks back and he surveys quickly and he turns and he lets the ball go. He's reading where the moves the safeties are, who's running in the wrong direction, has their weight in the wrong place. There is a synaptic thing that goes on inside the brain. And some guys are just really good at it. And let's be honest again, CJ Stroud had some weapons out wide, and he's got more coming this season because they want to be an aerial show in Houston. The questions about Houston will always come down to the health of the quarterback and the capability of the offensive line to block for running backs. And that has been a problem with Houston, is that they don't have a consistent ground game that would make a CJ Stroud not only safer, but would make him even more devastating when you're just constantly guessing what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I'm not going to say anything bad about CJ Stroud. The only thing that I will say is the one thing we know about the NFL, you got to do it year in, year out.
Yep.
And
It may get figured out.
and it isn't even that.
Yeah.
A guy like Deshaun Watson who threw for 5,000 yards and did it with as lousy a Houston team and as lousy an offensive line as I could think of. They were winning 4 games a season. You know, they were a lousy football team, but he was throwing for that many yards. He was taking an incredible number of sacks, though, and that doesn't help the physical condition of a quarterback like that.
Yeah.
But when you don't do it year after year after year, or if you do it 4 or 5 years in succession, and then all of a sudden you get hurt, and 2 years, you haven't done it in 2 years, they all write you off.
Correct.
That the bottom line is Stroud has had 1 season, and I
Yeah.
point this out all the time. Joe Burrow
Oh,
is a guy. I mean, he got him to the precipice. He really did, but he didn't finish it off, and he hasn't been able to even come close to that
yeah.
in recent memory. And I look at Lamar Jackson. It's like
Yeah.
they can MVP him all they want.
All they want, yeah.
But the
And they
thing
will.
is that he's in the offseason losing 15 to 20 pounds so he can be more agile. When they wanted him to be a running quarterback, they fired all the offensive coordinators, and now they're probably in agreement that's like, well, fuck him. Let him run with the football, and if he gets crippled for the rest of his life, then we'll have an
You don't have to
RG.
pay him, yeah.
We'll have an RG3 on our hands.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Washington did.
Yep.
It's but he hasn't proven he can throw the ball downfield. I mean, he's proven he can throw the ball to Andrews, but he hasn't proven that there's a wide. He did have a rookie receiver last
Zay
year,
Flowers.
Yeah,
Flowers was good.
yeah, and that helps. But it still was not a breakout season for him throwing the football like everybody said it was going to be. But they
Yeah.
gave him the MVP, which is fine, but it didn't do anything for the team. It was just one more thing that they could give to him as an accolade, but he hasn't proven to me, just
Mm.
hasn't proven anything to me.
No.
So go ahead.
And well, I'll add this in. You know, I don't get where people think the Ravens are all of a sudden going to run it back. You look at that roster, there's way too many damn holes.
Yeah, well, everybody's got weaknesses.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
mean,
they lost a lot of defensive pieces. I don't think they have a pass rush, and their offensive line still stinks.
yeah, it's a and they're all the teams in the North are playing tough schedules.
Correct.
So there's a lot. There's a lot on the line here, and
Well,
and
we
I'll
will learn a lot by the AFC North playing the NFC East this year, because the NFC East was sort of like the darling division with the Cowboys last year and the Giants coming on and the Eagles and that. So if we can all beat their ass, then then we're a good division.
I think we will.
I think the consistently hold on, the consistently wrong Stainbrook on Twitter is trying to say that the Browns and Amari Cooper are at odds and that time is running out, and he's doing the typical little bitch thing that he
Stir
does.
the pot.
Do you know who this guy is, David?
No, not particularly. I thought he was an actual reporter.
Ugh, he knows shit. Everything this guy has said doesn't come to pass. You know, there are people who are looking at what's happening in the NFL, and wide receivers right now have made a ton of money.
Absolutely.
And the last couple of years, it has been a huge thing.
Yeah.
And this time of the year, when push comes to shove, everybody is going to hold their ground. And the Browns as an organization will say, well, your fines are adding up. And Amari Cooper will say, well, I need better than that. And let it be that way. They're negotiating and they're both businesses. They're both looking out for themselves. But this is sensationalism. It's not going to happen. Believe me, Amari Cooper will be on the field week 1, and he doesn't need to go through all this bullshit practice. He works out. He knows what his body can do.
He's a pro player.
Yeah, that's right. And he's a good attitude player, and he'll be ready to play. Yeah. And they will come to an agreement on what he's worth. And Stainbrook and people of his ilk should just shut up. Just shut up. So,
hey, Moo.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what do you think about Stefanski and Barry's extensions?
Well, I mean, you have to look at it from a historical perspective. Taking the head coach first, Stefanski has inherited about the worst situation you could imagine. He had no professional head coaching experience. Yeah. And the one thing we can say about him is that he's organized.
He's organized. I was going to say that.
And so it wasn't like we had scatterbrained people, like we had a head coach who
low IQ people. He definitely isn't a low IQ guy.
And he's obviously somebody who has a methodology. And, it's no different than looking at Mike Tomlin. When you're winning, it's a great thing. When you're not winning, it's not such a great thing. But you look at the number of head coaches that the Browns have been through, and the fact that nobody hired these people ever again. They got themselves one. They're going to pay it.
Yeah, correct. Right? Yeah.
Well, to be fair, some of them did get hired again.
Like?
Name one.
Pat Shurmur.
Now certainly you jest.
He's had several different jobs since he left the Browns. He was in Philly. He was the head coach of the Giants. He was in Denver.
Yeah, and what did he do?
Well, not much there.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. So name another one who made more had more
impact. Yeah, impactful after they were with the Browns.
Well, Mike Pettin went to be the Packers defensive coordinator. Had a pretty good year.
I mean, as a head coach.
Crickets.
I mean, I can say
good point.
It's like Mike Brown. Mike Brown was with the Cavaliers on 2 different occasions. Mike Brown was a solid NBA coach. Not the greatest of coaches. He's not Popovich. He's, but he has some success. But he had LeBron, and so there were questions. Yep. When he lost LeBron, then the team went bye-bye, and he went bye-bye. And, and here he is, and he's found his way from the Lakers, where it didn't go so well, to Sacramento.
Yeah.
And look at his career record. And Mike Brown has a methodology. Now, you may not agree with the methodology, but right now they love him $8.5 million a year, like in Sacramento. So
you're making a good point here that Cavs head coaches that were previous have had better careers than ex-Browns head coaches.
Exactly.
Tyronn Lue. There's a few examples further back.
You can look at things in any number of ways, but in the end, a good man will not be held down, and an idiot will always be a fool. And the guys who were just not qualified to be head coaches, and it has come to pass that either they were rehired by other teams and failed, or they never got another chance again, like the Chudzinskis, people of that ilk.
I like Chudzinski.
And, as far as, Pat Shurmur, the guy was a kumquat.
He still is.
Just as dumb can be.
Oh, and they hated him in the Giants, man.
Well, what's there to like? Yeah, and there are people who bounce around in sports forever. The Browns head coaches were so bad, they may have bounced around in player personnel or as quarterback coaches or as defensive assistants or whatever. But, it's like, the only people who would even talk to Huey Jackson after his revolutionary stand in Cleveland. The
the
only
media.
people who would talk to him would be the people who would try to lure him closer to Lake Erie so they could drown him in it when he jumped in the lake, or the other people who, were in a,
The scam thing going on.
no, I mean when Hugh pretended he was black and got a job in the black conference, and they realized that he was the same guy, that he was in Oakland, that he was in Cleveland, that he was, what was it, Jackson State? Is that where the hell he was?
Oh yeah.
Rambling.
Grambling. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah, but it didn't pan out at all. So, and head coaching is, if Deion Sanders thought that, I'm gonna use this Colorado thing, Rocky Mountain High, and I'm gonna bring in some really great players and swing my dick around in a circle. I may have had some extremities removed, but hey, I still got the swinging dick. And you think that he is going to become a big-time head coach? Well, in the NFL or at one of the top
Miami or Alabama,
10, 12, colleges. Boy, that took a real nosedive last year.
Yeah,
and you got to have more than players. And he'd never been a head coach before. And that's what it comes down to. Some people are gifted enough and some people are not. So Stefanski proved himself to be at least a solid head coach. As far as the front office is concerned, I have, I would sit there and say that a guy like Andrew Berry, on a hit and miss basis, hasn't done us a whole lot of favors. But it's not just him. He has to put up with the analytics bullshit. And it's really difficult when you have an owner as stupid as Jimmy Haslam, who has turned the reins over to people who are not football people, and they're constantly in your ear about, well, we don't need to go after linebackers. We have Taki, or whatever. And we don't draft for need. We constantly take the Anthony Schwartz reaches when we have a 1 or 2 pick and we don't choose wide receivers there. We keep thinking we're going to get value picks, and those value picks are being determined by a bunch of analytics people.
Yeah.
Well, it could always be worse. It could be Joe Banner.
Oh no, you invoked him.
Something. Do you smell something? I just wanted to say that my name's been invoked, and I never go away. I swear I smell something. Something? I still talk about the Browns, but stupidity never stopped me in the past. I'm just killing it. Yeah, we had.
Yeah, he never did much of anything. But where did he go? ESPN or somewhere? Or Joe Banner?
I don't. He floated around.
He's probably on the other side of hell right now. Who knows?
Yeah.
Now let's see what Keith is talking about in here. Okay. Cleveland.
Keith is like writing paragraphs in here. That's amazing.
Yeah, I got to keep up, man. I got to keep up. He's convinced Cleveland will finish in last place. Okay, we're going to hold you. We're going to hold you to that. I don't say yay or nay because anything can happen.
Anything has happened. I mean, why don't Keith come on, join the program?
Well, no, because he's more happy doing it this way. That's cool. And Brown was a very good head coach. Who's Mike Brown?
Brown.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And he's proven that. So, and he's getting $8.5 million a year. But unfortunately, he's in Sacramento, and Sacramento is like they're the people who took Tyrese Halliburton and traded him to the Pacers to make the Pacers a better team, and they got the left-handed center, Sabonis. but they're still winning. But you can't make trades like that and consistently win. But be that as it may, yes, he's done a good job. But all I'm saying is the other coaches for the Browns, no, the head coaches that we had have never proven to be effective anywhere else. And he wants to talk about a little bit about Deion Sanders. He had an advantage at JSU that no other coach had. And Stefanski extension was a mistake. He will not see the end of this deal.
Well,
and again,
that could probably happen.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Look, and we're going to start calling you Chicken Little there, Keith. Don't make
I don't necessarily believe that.
I'm not sure who Keith supports, actually, whether he's
probably a closet Steelers fan.
Steeler fan, Bengal fan, I don't know.
Oh, Sanders had everything going in his favor. Then all of a sudden the wheels fell off. And, you have talent, but talent in and of itself doesn't win. You got to have organization that directs talent to do the right kinds of things. And without that, you don't win. De'Aaron Fox is a good player. Yeah, I'm not ripping Sacramento. I'm ripping the history of Sacramento, who has always been the last time, and we researched this, friend of mine and I. When was the last time that Sacramento was worth a shit? They won 50-plus games only one time since 2006, and that was when Vlade Divac was still a player.
Wow.
All right? So this is not an organization that has been successful with drafting and trades or anything else. Mike Brown's done a fine job there. And, he's rewarded. And that's the way it's supposed to work out. So, yeah. This ended up a Cleveland Browns show, What can I tell you? And
so, any words from Tommy Heinsohn today, or
what's there to say? I don't want to be him.
Well, would he say Vlade Divac?
What we need are more Croatians.
We don't have enough Croatians in the league.
Make it all stop. So at any rate, I'm seeing if there's anything else that I've really missed. And really there isn't. But the last example I'll give you, Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers, talking to Jaden Daniels, quarterback on the 49ers.
No, he's actually with Washington.
I'm sorry, you're right. He's with Washington, but they played together in college. My bad. Yeah. The 49ers don't want me back. That's what Brandon Ayuk tells Jaden Daniels in some social media space. And, this is what happens this time of the year. Yeah. Everybody's playing their hand and playing their cards. Don't believe all that shit. The fact of the matter is most of these players, and Amari Cooper is smart enough to know that this is his last opportunity to max out money. Yeah. And if he doesn't do it now, he's going to be too old. He can't come back and do it again. So this is a very important time for him financially. So, let the thing play out. You don't need to become like Stainbrook. It sounds like a big shit stain. I'm going to call him Shit Stain.
He's probably had a lot of fun made of that name over the years, I would imagine.
I would imagine so. So that's it for me, and that's it for you, and that's it for everybody. Everybody, thanks for participating on the program. I do appreciate it tremendously. And, get more opportunities to talk about the Browns. And really, that's what people are waiting for. Every year we gain subscriptions, but it's got to be closer to the Browns season. Because usually the Guardians don't hold up their end of the deal. They're doing a nice job this year, but we never really cultivated a baseball audience in the past.
There isn't one. That's why. They don't know how to use the internet. They're still using scorecards.
And the Cavaliers, I speak fluent Cavaliers, but there have been so many periods of time. LeBron's on the team. LeBron's off the team. The team sucks. LeBron comes back. The team is relevant. Good. The team wins the championship. LeBron leaves to go to LA. The team sucks. I mean, it's been up and down and up and down. And the JB Bickerstaff thing, you want to talk about a mistake. Holding on to him last year was a big fucking mistake because he's not a qualified head coach. And that's going to be another Cleveland head coach.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Doesn't go anywhere. He's going to become a defensive assistant on an NBA team. Very good defensive mind. Has no idea what's going on offensively. That's it, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio.
Oh, how's Dick Goddard? Is he burning in hell this week? Is the heat
it
down?
started raining. I have a friend, and he would always tell me his favorite song. And it was some song I've never heard of called It's Raining Men.
Wow. It's raining men. Hallelujah.
Hey. It's the alternate.
Dick Goddard.
They don't call me Dick for nothing.
For nothing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It reached 91 degrees here. Then it started raining like mad. And then
Raining.
the temperature dropped. Okay. I think it's only like 78, 79 outside now, but it's going to go back up into the 90s tomorrow. It's all over the place. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Yeah. We'll be back again on Friday. Until then, hasta la vista, faster heads. Good night.
Bye.